Hello and welcome to the IrishRacing.com Galway Festival preview in association with Boyle Sports. A glorious 7 days of action in Ballybridge. It's a real feast for racing fans, and I'm delighted to be joined to preview this week with Paddy Flood and Johnny Ward joining me. During this year's Galway Festival, Edward O'Grady will be in the thoughts of all racing people across the week as the sad news of his passing broke this morning at the age of 75. Edward O'Grady was a legendary trainer in Ireland, a multiple champion trainer, and a legend in Galway as well in his own right, training 3 out of 4 Galway plate winners in the 70s, and I think one of the only trainers to achieve the Galway plate and Galway Hurdle double in the late 70s as well. Paddy, Edward O'Grady was a massive part of your career at the early stages as well. Very sad news this morning.
Yeah, really sad news for all his family. Emma, he was a great man. He was a great man to work for. He was tough, but I learned probably everything I know about riding a race was from Edward. I could always ride horses well, but Edward taught me how to properly race ride, and if you messed one up, you knew about it. But once you had that cleared out, there was never a word about it again, and you moved on. Very sad news. Martin Ferris texted me this morning actually to let me know, and myself and Martin were there at the time together, and we had a great time with him, and some great memories and some really good horses. And like he was the Willie Mullins of his generation, really. He was training Cheltenham winners when it wasn't being done. So he was a man ahead of his time, and when he had one right, he really had it right. He knew his horses inside out, trained them hard, trained them fit, and may he rest in peace.
Yeah, he was a real trailblazer for the Irish trainers in Cheltenham back in the day. Johnny, very sad news. Did you meet Edward much in your travels up and down the country?
Yeah, many times. It's not that long at all since I was talking to him at the races. I think it was in Mallow, and I saw him at the races very, very recently. So this came as a complete shock to me this morning when I heard. He was 75 years of age, so he wasn't young. But the last time I saw him, he looked in great health, and I was actually getting into Cheltenham, the first Cheltenham I saw was 2003 when the Supreme would have been won by Back in Front, and he was a horse I saw running in Limerick that year on a kind of a student race day trip when the student race days were different in those days. So just as I was getting to race, and Edward O'Grady was kind of relied on for one of the bankers of Ireland at Cheltenham, and at that time he was the winnable trainer, I think, from Ireland in terms of Cheltenham. And obviously in later years, then as he got older, he didn't have the caliber of horse that he used to have. But I always really enjoyed his company, and he was played by Pierce Brosnan in a movie over the gay future thing, something he was strangely quiet about all the years later. But we obviously didn't want to talk much about that. But it kind of added to his legend, I suppose, and quite apart from gay future, he was a brilliant trainer, good horses, and as I say, I found him really engaging company at the races over a drink or in the parade ring. He's a very witty character and quite unique in many ways. And yeah, very, very sad news that it was just such a shock to hear that this morning.
Yeah, very sad news, and thoughts are with all of his family and friends across the week, and he'll be fondly remembered throughout the whole week of Galway. We're recording this on Monday the 28th of July, and feature race of today is the Connacht Hotel QR Handicap, and that's the first race I suppose we'll chat about just to get it out of the way since we're recording on the day. It'll be out in time by the time you're watching this. So just looking at the race, Toadstone for Emmett Mullins and the Mee family. He won this 2 years ago and bids to do so again in the same colours. Two Bossy for us for his uncle Willie in there about second favourite. Comfort Zone is fancied for Joseph O'Brien. War Rooms a booking of Finney Maguire for Jerry Keane, and looks a very fancied one as well. Look, I suppose this Toadstone is the obvious starting point, Johnny. We haven't seen him on the flat since October. Connections obviously think he's fairly well handicapped off a mark of 86. Could be difficult to maybe take on the favourite here.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to have any other injury in Galway this week, which maybe is a bit surprising. I was at Bellewstown when he ran behind Bond on Fire, and that was a night prep for this. And you look at his form; he was second Comfort Zone, in the Premier Handicap at Naas off 83, and he's running off 86 here. That was essentially his last flat run, so he's definitely feasible. I don't know, like John Keeson's an excellent rider. We're going from gate 16 of this race isn't easy. And for me, he's short enough. I prefer to put up something at a bigger price. And just watching back the race last year, man, it's kind of hard to know how well Weston was traveling because the people who do videos now and the authorities, they sort of, if a horse fatally injured, you might be able to see the race. So that was the case here. So it was a horse fatally injured ahead of Weston, and he seemed to be travelling well, but basically he missed a large part of the replay. So he looks to be travelling quite well, and more to the point, he's 10 pounds over for me. And at the same Bellewstown Festival meeting, he was mad like half I thought behind Ark of the Morning under David. So he was beautiful prep for this race. And Harry Rogers has been going well, and he's only a 6-year-old as well for us so far. By Harry's standards, this horse might only be getting going, and I feel he's very feasible. His draw is fine, and as I say, he's 10 pounds lower than last year when he didn't run badly at all.
Yeah, for sure. And that Galway form is always, I suppose, one to watch throughout the whole week. Paddy, what was your thoughts on the feature race of today?
Yeah, well, like you said, their Galway form is Galway form, and if they turn up in Galway, they usually keep going back and keep turning up. It's a unique sort of track, so some horses love it, some horses hate it, but I think Toldstone, it will be very hard to beat. It's a tariff, and they're going for it. Proper owners, proper trainer. They do it year in, year out. Too bossy for us. I'm disappointed with him in the Curragh. Really disappointed. The race was there to be won. Stablemate kind of made the running, but the length of the straight to be shot at, and it just wasn't good enough to get fire. And we threw him in at the deep end in Cheltenham without a run in Ireland or anything. So just think, Toldstone, he ticks a lot of boxes, and I'd be going with him.
I used to say about Paddy on too bossy for us. I know he's a hood on, and he's entered later on in the week over a mile and a half, but he hung under pressure at the Curragh, and to me he didn't look like crazily well handicapped off 3 pounds higher in the back of that run. I thought he'd absolutely every chance.
Yeah, obviously the first choice of really actually has a pretty good record in this with second, third strings. Looking further down the line, he doesn't got maybe as big a team as he'd normally send for this race this year, but he's got a couple in there, and it's not always the Willie Mullins first string that pops up in this one. I was kind of looking kind of similar to Johnny, maybe one of the bigger price, and just thought Familiar Dreams there under young Josh Williamson claiming £7 was interesting. She's drawn quite well in stall 5, 16-1. She's a 4-time bumper winner back in the day, obviously transferred to Gordon from the Anthony McCanty's team, but I think to have a filly who's good enough to win 4 Irish bumpers, they'd probably be a fairly high level filly on the flat. She hasn't run on the level an awful lot of time. She's off America 93. She could still be quite unexposed, and I think jockey booking in a race like this is very important. And Josh Williamson claiming £7, he rides, I think, nearly as good as any amateur jockey. So for him claiming 7 is huge, I think, here.
I wonder what happened with Qatar Racing, Emma. I see there's a new owner.
Yeah, because
I think she's quite quirky, Emma. Náine O'Connor went all the bumpers on her, and I think she never lifted a stick to her. She minded her a lot, to win the bumpers. I think she got a lot of, not freebies in front, but she wandered a lot in some of her bumpers late. 330 grand, I think they've had for after the bumpers. So you just be worried. Galway, a track, could be tricky, but if she enjoyed it, she definitely has the ability. 100% she does.
Yeah, we should see how she takes it, I suppose. And Anya actually won her maiden on her as well. It was a ladies' maiden or an amateur maiden anyway down in Tramore that she won as well. So Josh Williamson, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on with her. But I think he's a big book in a race like this, claiming £7. But we'll move on, or actually we'll stick just with today for a second. Is there anything else, across the card that you fancy? Johnny, I might go to you first.
Yeah, I thought today was maybe one of the better days, I think, for a bet. Tomorrow looks a bit more tricky anyway, and we've obviously decorated for the first 3 days. I see our sponsors, Wild Sports, have just come in with prices on the ball replays as well, so that'll help us later on. But the Collins double, actually, I quite like him in the first 2 races. Mick Collins and Paul Collins, for different reasons, each way double, both very, very solid. And Desmond Castle in the 750. Some of the races on the flat recently have had quite poor turnouts, and I thought there'd be more horses or more yards represented in that. Joshua Ryan dominating the 750, but he's a blank canvas at a mile and a half, that horse, and he was quite eye-catching at Limerick. So yeah, they'd be my 4 today: Mick Collins, Paul Collins, Weston, and Desmond Castle.
Very good, Paddy. Anything else for you on day one?
Just the horse in the first JP's horse. Look, he's not a backable horse, ratting Davy Crockett. Just really interested to see how good is he. His bumper look good. But his brothers and sisters have been kind of mixed, so it'll be interesting to see if the great Annie Power controlled another great one, really, So I just kind of, it's a good card today. And after the qualified riders race, I don't know, I was just kind of, he's an interesting horse that I'll be keeping an eye on. That's all, really. No betting.
Very good, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing him. It's an interesting route they're shaking, the same as the brother Mystical Power, obviously winning the summer bumper and then on to Maiden Hurdle in Galway. Interesting to see where he can develop.
Not Maiden, Emma. That's the key point. It's not. It's like it's a winner's race. So they're going straight into the deep end, taking on horses not only with hurdling experience but winners. Which for me, like Willie doesn't overschool his horses the best way not is. So it's very, very risky to do. Who am I to call out on him? But like that's a horse that's hard to call in the market because like it's straight in at the deep end, having won a bumper.
He's obviously showing an awful lot at home. He was impressive winning the bumper as well. So it'll be interesting. So a few offers from our sponsors, Boyle Sports, ahead of the week at Galway. For all new and existing customers, get your money back as a free bet if your selection finishes second to the SP favourite. That offer is all week at Galway. Terms and conditions apply, and make sure to bet responsibly. Another offer exclusive to new customers with Boyle Sports. Get €60 in free sports bets and €10 in casino bets when you sign up to Boyle Sports during the week of Galway. Again, terms and conditions apply, and make sure to bet responsibly. We'll move on now, and we're actually going to talk about the feature races of the week now next, and we'll go on to Wednesday first, the Galway Plate. The first one we'll give a chat about, and we got the entries or the declarations in for this one, and I think we just got the odds up from our sponsors, Boyle Sports, as well. Now, Bergring, a very, very interesting prospect in this one for Joseph O'Brien, last year's Galway Hurdle winner, obviously, and he is heading the market down memory lane, who was thought of as maybe a grade 1 prospect at one stage by Gordon Elliott. They seem to fancy his chances in here. Could be unexposed when the company sergeant next in the betting there for Gavin Cromwell. And Jazzy Matty, I thought a really eye-catching jockey booking there. Harry Cobden coming over to ride the Cheltenham Festival winner for Cian Collins. I suppose, as always, this is an ultra-competitive Galway Hurdle. There's chances that you could give chances to nearly everything in the field in this one. But Paddy, I'll go to you first. And we might start with the favourite, I suppose. Nürburgring maybe got, I won't say a freebie, but he definitely had a bit of luck at the start when he won the hurdle last year. But he was impressive winning he's on his chase at Clary last time. You can see why he is the favourite here, but possibly short enough in a big field handicap like this.
Yeah, he's quite short to play it now, Like all players, not easy win at all. And everyone thinks, the handicap is a really tricky handicap, and there's great horses in there. But I think he's a great horse in handicap company, to be honest. And when we done the Cheltenham preview that time in Kildare, JJ had said to me, I kind of half fancied him in Cheltenham, and he said, no, Galway you'll see the best of this, lads. So I say the experience of Cheltenham, good run there, smashing on the flash, pulls it in Killarney over fences. He's a worry favourite. He is a worry favourite. But look, at 72, would back a horse to the pay at 72? I wouldn't. He's a 5-year-old. He's open to a lot of improvement. The horse I like in it, I think he did it anyway. Was it anyway? Ken Budds, he did there.
Yeah, he was. He's Derek O'Connor riding.
Yeah, he's a very interesting horse. His form of fence is very good, and he was second in the beginner's chase there last year, I think. He has a bit of course form, and his form ties in around Nürburgring, and he's a 7-year-old. He should be well able for it now. I'd love to see Ken win it, a smaller trainer, but Ken is a really good trainer.
Yeah, he's everyone retained to one shot there. Boyle Sports could be a nice each way shout there. And Derek O'Connor, interesting booking as well. Johnny, what were your thoughts on the Galway Plate?
It's funny with Nürburgring, to hear Paddy there, and I believe you can never have too much information at the races, where if you fancied this horse at Cheltenham, Paddy could have relayed to you from JJ that his overall plan actually is Galway, not the Cheltenham Festival. So And in fairness, he actually went perfectly well at Cheltenham. It wasn't that he wasn't trying or anything, but sometimes horses have a plan. And since then, obviously, he won his chase and he went brilliantly at Royal Ascot. I just feel he's short enough. 5 rolls off from each win at Galway Plate. Maybe it'll happen. But 2 horses for me against the field. Buddy won if he were trained by a bigger yard. He'd be an absolute fraction of the price he is. 20s with Boyle in 6 places. The one worry I'd have about him is he probably needed the run at Ballinrobe. He shouldn't have been the price he was to win a race like that. Probably needed the run, even though he was back closer to the off. So this is encouraging. And on his hurdles form, he's a great chance. I just be a bit worried about his jumping. He won his beginner's chase around here, but that was a negative spoon race. And I'm not sure his jumping will hold up. You're taking a bit of a chance on that. But my main selection, Emma, is actually down memory lane, who really looked very, very impressive when he beat King of Kingsfield at Navan as a 7-1 shot in that traditionally hot beginner's chase in November. And then he ran behind Lotus, so did Sandown when he was outpaced, and didn't run badly behind Lecky Watson. Obviously disappoints at Fairyhouse, but ultimately he's my type of profile for this race, a second season novice who might have a bit in hand, and he won a point to point, so I'd imagine stepping up and trip. He looks a very, very decent horse, and Mark Walsh rides him.
Yeah, for sure. I heard Gordon actually talking about him during the week, and he was saying, grade 1 horse in a handicap, off a Mako 145, he could be fairly dangerous as well. Definitely was disappointing this year, but I suppose setting his sights at handicaps might be a good move for him. To be honest, I'm a big fan of Jazzy Matty. I know he's kind of climbing up the handicap now. He's up 7 pounds, and since he won the Grand Annual at the Cheltenham Festival, and trying a new trip for the first time, he hasn't gone this far in his life, but he kind of shapes like a horse who might even improve stepping up and trip. And I think the jockey booking it has to be a massive plus. Harry Cobden coming over to ride for Cian Collins. He's a horse who's been improving no end since joining Cian. Obviously part of that big Michael O'Sullivan double at the Cheltenham Festival. He's a horse that plenty of people have fond memories of, but he had 2 runs in handicap hurdles towards the back end of last year, pulling up at Punchestown, but this seems to have been kind of his long-term target since he won at the Cheltenham Festival. Look, he's at a career high mark, but I think having Seneca in there at the top of the weights kind of means 11-4. It's not a bad way to be carrying a plate. He's won around Sligo, which is a tricky track. I think the test of Galway might suit him, and he's tactically versatile. I think 9 or 10 to 1 there. He's a nice each way shout in that one for Cian Collins. Right, so that's the Galway Plate. Wrapped up the feature race on the Wednesday. We got Wednesday's declarations through this morning, so maybe a quick shout to anything else across the day. Johnny, did you see anything else in Wednesday you want to give attention to?
Yeah, Shot is an interesting horse running in the 820, owned by a neighbour of mine from home, Ray Graham, and a Galway man, obviously. So, would love a winner at the festival, which she was when she won the 1.5 mile amateur race at the festival, or the 1.5 mile amateur riders race at the festival, or rather in September last year. When it was at the festival, was it last year? Yeah, she won her maiden at the festival, and then she ran some good races afterwards. I definitely thought stepping up to 2 miles would suit her. Run off 78 as well for Joseph O'Brien, and Dylan Brown McMonigal booked. Another horse I'm interested in on the Wednesday is Zandabad, who is actually entered in that. I see he's entered in that feature staying handicap hurdle on the Saturday. And off the top of my head, he might just need to win to get in. He's taken on Hip Hop De Loire, who might be hard to beat, but and he's only raised 115 down the bat, but he's surely a lot more to offer over hurdles given his flat form, and Harvey's been having a good run of it, so he's very interesting for me in that maiden hurdle, the 505.
Very good. We'll move on to Thursday's action and the next feature race of the week, the Galway Hurdle, obviously on the Thursday. Not that then this one from Buzz, where's me just putting up on the screen. So we have it here, and it's put your hands together, bidding to repeat, I suppose, success for Joseph O'Brien in the Galway Hurdle, trying to go back to back with this JP McManus own 4-year-old. He's around 9-2 favourite, and Dowie for Gordon Elliott is next in the betting. He's around 8-1. Jesse Evans, who's obviously been declared for the plate, but still in the betting for this one, he's around 10-1. Mr. Percy, another one for Joseph O'Brien, who's up there in the betting. Bowen's on fire for Gordon Elliott, and It's about, Hello Neighbour, another one to give a mention. So he's about 10-1 mark as well for Gavin Cromwell, obviously a high class juvenile hurdler this year. Put your hands together, though. It's kind of been a recent trend, I suppose. 4-year-olds in the Galway Hurdle, and last two winners, obviously, 4-year-olds in this. And you keep going back to 2000, identifying the last 4-year-old to win it. So a 25-year gap nearly, and they start winning it again. But obviously seem to have had a bit of an advantage in the last couple of renewals. Obviously, Fred Winter winner for Joseph in the colours of J. Fear Fantasy. We'd have to be very, very wary of him. Johnny, what do you think of the chances of the favourite, I suppose, to start off with?
Yeah, the 4-year-old trend is kind of is a mad one, I suppose. The depth of the 4-year-old division, I think, has definitely increased in recent years, where like Willie Mullins is sourcing sort of national hunt almost type horses to be ready to go 4-year-old hurdling, and they're not these kind of very good flat horses good hurdling anymore. Even Hello Neighbour, like he's quite stoutly bred, and you know, he's not a horse who's inexperienced, would worry me, put it that way. I think this is one of the toughest Galway hurdles I've ever seen. Put your hands together. He was disappointing enough for me at Aintree, and similarly so at Tipperary. For all that, I wouldn't read too much maybe in Tipperary. I thought he was a bit disappointed at Aintree, but he was brilliant at Cheltenham, and he's rated 141, gives him a chance, and that means Hello Neighbour obviously has to give him £7. I don't know what to make of Hello Neighbour at this stage. I had him each way anti-post at Cheltenham, and I was disappointed with his kind of finishing effort. Now I thought, in fairness, in Punchestown he finished better, but his Roscommon one was very, very disappointing the last year. When it was a listed race, I can't imagine like he was that short in terms of work. So there's Willie Mullins, like all of Willie's horse in this, like even the likes of Gosher and the veteran Winter Fog's top, I wouldn't be ruling them out at all. And the likes of them both like to be on the pace, which might well suit here. There could be a lot of pace on with Cashel Lad in the race as well. Dice Artinos, I honestly backed her, put forward so many of these horses in the past. She's a horse that's basically disappointed me. Her run at Kempton the last day sort of wasn't too bad. The horse that's very interesting in one respect is Sunchart, because if he hadn't run at Tipperary, he'd be running here off 132, and for finishing third in a grade 3, he's now rated. Possibly the race an Edward O'Grady horse got into trouble back in the past. The Perception of Deception line he had, who was then favoured for the Galway Hurdle, whose name I forget. Maybe Paddy Flodzier, actually, although Paddy didn't ride him at Tipperary. But that race Tipperary can be a good trial for this in any event. But Sunchart's got £12 for that. It's a very, very long way of me saying I find this desperately, desperately tough. And at an absolute push, I'd probably go with Mr. Percy, a horse I've liked for a while as well. He's a 5-year-old, very, very good effort in the flap and well backed underway, and has it the last day off 87. And he's a grade 2 winner over Hurdle, stays well, very uncomplicated horse. But I have to say this is as tough a Galway Hurdle as I've ever seen.
Yeah, it does look tricky. Paddy, were you able to work it out?
I should look nearly impossible to work it out, Emma. It's a great race, and it's a great race to watch, and it's a great race to ride. And if you get a start, you know, and if they go quick enough, some years they don't go quick enough, and it's a melee. You know, it's such a hard ride around there. There's not an inch going around there in a Galway hurdle. I've often gone around and not seen a hurdle. You know, so the last you just hear them, but these horses they're good 2-milers, and it's hopefully, like Johnny said, there is a lot of pace in it, and it's brilliant when there's pace. You can ride a proper 2-mile race. The horse that just sticks out to me, and he's about 8-1, is Sir Percy. He's got that sort of, and Joseph's horses are flying as well. He's just got something about him. Like, he's a 140. I think he's a good bit in hand, to be honest. I think he's a way better horse than a 140 horse. He was good and brave in Fairy House. He went down. He was tight in behind the boys the last two, jumped well, quickened up to win well. He's not a big horse, but that's not to say he won't get around Galway. Flat form, he's a good flat horse, and he's not overexposed. He's there, he's upcoming. And if I could pick one, I'd pick him to ride. But another one I'll have to give a mention to is Jesse Evans. I mean, what a horse! Is the 4th time go for the hurdle?
Race the last 3.
Yeah, and second in 2 of them. And you might think, it's he's getting a bit older and whatever, but that course form, if they take to a Galway Hurdle and they enjoy it, they're bang there. They're always there. I used to ride a little horse, I think his name was Eagles Pass. was second in it twice and third in it, and he just turned up all the time for a Galway hurdle, and it gives the rider a load of confidence knowing that this is after running 3 or 4 times in it. So you're not going out there worried like you would be on the sort of firstly kind of thinking, oh, is he going to take this? Isn't he? But Jesse Evans would be a good each way bet, I think.
Do you remember the start as well last year, Paddy? Like, it's very important to get this right.
Yeah. Yeah, like the year I won at Giant was probably the easiest winner I ever rode. For whatever reason, they just let me off in front, and I was able to get the fractions right. And he was a nice horse, and he had plenty in hand too. I didn't know anything about him. Barry Gary was supposed to ride him.
Right, yeah.
Ball, yeah. So, look, you're that type of horse. He was great leopard. He was quick and everything. But Jesse Evans, as a jockey, he'd be walking out there. There'd be no stress on Dunhamweiler. He'd be happy out. He'd be going out to enjoy his ride. Whereas if you're riding a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, you're thinking, oh, could this be a bit too much? And you have a lot of other things on your mind rather than riding the horse. You're trying to look after them, keep the lid on them, get them to the start. And it can be melee at the start, but the Plate is probably the worst start of a race in Ireland. And the hurdle can end up like that too.
There's a real article, Emma, was the horse I was thinking of for Edward Brady, who was second in the Grimes Hurdle. That's 14 years ago, though, so I don't expect it to remember it.
Just kind of touching there on the tactical element, I suppose, of the Plate and the hurdle. Paddy, like, are you kind of looking for a horse who might be able to line up handy? Like, is it more difficult to come from the back in the race like a hurdle or a Plate when there's so much going on? Like you said, it's tight knit and there's not much room to maneuver.
How to start in a hurdle and Plate is everything, basically. It's that's the winning and losing of it. So if you want a horse that's sharp, you want that, so of course it'd be a flat horse, he'll travel, but you want to jump off closer than you actually want to be. So you want to be jumping off 3 or 4 lengths closer and then come back to the position you want to be, because if you jump off 3 or 4 lengths behind where you want to be, you'll never get in there. But the problem is, there's 15 other lads doing that as well. So everybody is breaking the tape and trying to get out the gate, not necessarily going to make the run it, but they're jumping out to get the horses back into position, because if you're on the back foot at all, you just won't win them. Simple as that. There's too much hustle and bustle. And, Ruby was brilliant in them big handicaps because he just accepted, okay, wherever he was, he got the horse onto a rhythm. If you try and rush into a spot or try and make up a length or two in the first lap, in either the Plate or the hurdle, you're at nothing. You got to accept where you land in the race. So that's where you'll see 20 of them lining up together in the Plate, is to jump out, grab a hold of their horse and come back. But in that, you'll get false starts,
Johnny, you were kind of mentioning maybe a few negatives about Hello Neighbour, but I don't know. I just think he's probably worth a bit of an each way bet here. He's around the 10-1 mark. He's maybe not a fully fledged grade 1 horse, I suppose. He was obviously beaten in Cheltenham and in Aintree, but he was a grade 2 winner at the DRF. He's a strong travelling horse, and he could be ridden handily like that. Gavin Cromwell's horses are flying. I think off America 148. The records of 4-year-olds in this race. He'd probably be the one that I'd be given a bit of a small bet on in what looks like a tricky looking renewal of the Galway Hurdle. But we'll move back now as we move on from Thursday's racing back to Tuesday's feature race of the day. We just wanted to get the big ones out first. But the feature race on the Tuesday, the Colin Quinn Mile, always a very exciting contest. Memories of last year. Wayne Hassett weaving through the field on Mexicali was to get up in the last 100 yards. It was a fair sight to see. But we've got the winner of 2 years ago, Coeur d'Or, is back in here for Dermot Weld and Chris Hayes. Noah Havoc was second to Mexicali was in last year's renewal. He's in there as well for the Jessica Harrington team, who have been in flying form of late. But it's Andy who's the 9-2 favourite with Boyle Sports. Mississippi River, the Mount of Jack Cleary for the Ballydoyle team, 5-1. Steve Binnon has been in huge form since transferring to the David Marlan team this year. Going on his hat-trick bid. He's around the 11 to 2 mark, and it's 8 bar those. Johnny, I'll go to you first on this one. It's a tricky looking contest, but maybe course form, as always in Galway, could be important here. We've got a previous winner here. We've heard horses who've ran well in this race before. What are you looking towards in this one?
Yeah, I the first thing that struck me about this, Emma, was like no overseas runners when the British horses can do very well in these races, and only 14 runners for this race should surely be fully subscribed. I thought that was strange. Like some of the flat handicaps this year, and HRI figures show that flat racing is slightly on the decline numbers wise in Ireland, but I thought that was interesting. It's very competitive, obviously, and it's hard to pick out any horses that look all that well handicapped. Dunham is very interesting because he loves Galway. For me, he actually doesn't really look like he loves this trip, particularly with the hill, and he looks like he's kind of better over the 7, over which he won here at the festival. Mississippi River's a horse has been so popular in the market. For me, at this stage, it looks like the handicapper kind of has him. Schlieve Binnen left him for dead the last day, and there's so many talking points this race. The fact that Tony Martin has booked Jimmy Dalton, a £10 claimer on a Randy in a race as difficult as this. Now, he's going from gate 1, which is a lot easier than going from gate 14. But that doesn't mean it's easy either. For like a £10 claimer going into a race like this, it's a massive opportunity for Jimmy. And he was well fancied at Doncaster when he was running off 88 in what was probably a stronger handicap. He's running off 97 here. But Jimmy Dalton's claim is obviously to help offset that. But against that, you're missing, like, Jimmy Dalton has so little experience in races like this, let alone winners at this stage of his career. So it's a really intriguing aspect, and that's why you can have a completely different opinion than someone else about the potential winner of this race and what it's like for a £10 claimer in it. I'd probably go with Currador, who's as you say, I won the race 2 years ago. He was actually drawn 15 then. He's drawn 14 this year. Now he's slightly higher in the weights, but he's a very consistent horse. And I always laugh at Dermot Weld. He kind of goes into every Galway now. He says, I don't have much of a team this year, but usually he pulls it a bit out of the fire as well. I don't think the draw will be a major problem for him with Chris Hayes, and I'd probably go with him, but so many chances in it.
Yeah, for sure. Paddy, did you have any fancy in this one?
Look, again, it's Galway, isn't it? It's a tough race. But Schlieve Binnen is a horse that's kind of, since joining Dave Marnans, he's just a winning machine. And won easy the last day. Won really, really easy. And as a jockey, you're going into a meeting and you're looking at horses, and what are you trying to pick? But this horse is winning, and he's enjoying winning. Now I know he's going up in weights, and he's drawn 12, which is going to be tough. But he's just where's the ceiling with him? What is he, 96 now? The way he won the last day, I know he got a good hike, but he's going in here with a lot of ones beside his name, and that's kind of what you want. And I was thinking the very same as Johnny. Jimmy Dalton riding a horse there that probably will be in the finish of this race. He's a fine horse, 9-7, taking 10 off the back. He's probably blessed he's drawn 1, but if anyone can do this, Tony Martin can, because he does it all the time. Every few years he's pop up, and even his Galway Hurdle winners and his big handicap winners, they're not all household names riding them either. And you see them amateur races, he comes up with, he's very, very good at Harvey out spotting someone. And if this chap is in riding out with him and Harvey thinks he can do the business, I wouldn't be that worried, So drawn 1, he's obviously got an advantage there. So he'll be on the rail at somewhere and probably arriving late, simple, typical Tony Martins. But Schlieve Binnen, yeah, he's 11 to 2, so I think he's still a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's not a bad price for a horse because he's rapidly improving. Since making the changes there, because he seems to be in the form of his life. But yeah, big ride there for young Dalton and the 92 favourite there. £10 claim could be huge if you, like you say, Tony Martin has found a rising star here. I remember, was it in this race that it's probably the first memory I have of seeing Colin Keane winning a big race. I just remember his interview afterwards. Gosh, I don't know what year it is now. I'll have to scroll back through him, but he was young at the time anyway, Colin Keane, and I just remember his interview afterwards. He said he was after crashing his car was it the week before the race or something? So he was just delighted to land the big pot. So it's a race that a jockey can announce himself on the scene, and it'll be interesting to see how that one goes for that Young Wilder, I suppose. But I liked Norwalk Havoc in this. He's around 10-1 there, boys sports for Jessica Harrington and Shane Foley. He was second in this last year, obviously, as a 3-year-old. Campaign sparsely this year. I'm hoping it's by design. I didn't hear anything about setbacks or anything in any of the media. And look, hopefully it's just the fact that he might have been targeted at this one again. Second to Max Callio was last year as a 3-year-old. He's 3 pounds higher now, but as a bigger, stronger 4-year-old, I think he could have a bit more to give off that mark. Drawn 5 looks fine. Course form at Galway, like we'll probably keep saying it again and again, means so much. And I think 10-1 looks a fairly big price about Norwalk Havoc there for Jessica Harrington and Shane Foley. But before we move on from Tuesday, anything else across the card? Johnny, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, Tuesday, the first race is intriguing. I hope the 8th runners go. I hate when 8 runners come 7 for punters, especially some of the races at Galway this week aren't great each way turns. But Avondale is a horse that interests me. He was very, very good at Bellewstown the last day, and I know Barry Conn isn't apt to talk his horses down, but really, really talking his horses up. I think he was on about the Royal Bond afterwards, and he's won in the Novice Hurdle, albeit with plenty of winners in it. Baker's Trees and other of these very well-bred horses. Lenore Vert was exceptional at Roscommon the last day, and taking on even Sticks the Plan, I'd give a chance to it. But Avondale, he was very, very good the last day, and quite a nice horse on the flat as well, and he would be interesting for me at an each way price.
Very good. Paddy, did you see anything on Tuesday, or will we move on?
Yeah, that Lenore Vert, I think he's probably the banker for me for the week, to be honest. I think he's a very good horse. And the race he won the last it can throw good horses and bolted in. Avondale jumping a little bit sketchy, If he doesn't jump well around Galway, he won't win. But look, Emily Love is 16-1. As Johnny said, if the 8 stay in, she's a winning machine at the minute too. And these fillies, when you get them going and winning, they can tend to keep going with it. And even if she doesn't win, I think 16-1 is a massive price. But I think Lenore Vert is a horse we'll be seeing a lot of in the winter, even in the future.
Very good. A strong shout there. Not priced up yet by Wild Sports, but he's around 2-1 on the tissue there. So could be a nice nap there from Paddy Flood on day 2 of Galway. Not really, I suppose, a tip in a way, but there's one race that's kind of always worth following in Galway. It's the 607 on the Tuesday. It's a fillies maiden over 7 furlongs for the 2-year-olds. Just looking back through the Roll of Honour of this race, Bubbling won it last year. She went on to win a Grade 2 at Newmarket, but going back further, Tahira won this. Formosa won it. There's a kind of a whole host of top class fillies have booked their maiden in this Galway 7 furlong event, and this year looks fairly tasty as well. You've got second and third from a Leopardstown maiden a few weeks ago. Then and now for Jessica Harrington, a Dubarry filly, and Amelia Earhart, who there was plenty of word about in Leopardstown that day. She's a Camelot filly out of Venus de Milo. There's probably a few other nice fillies in here as well. Black Caviar Gold there for Paddy Toomey and Chris Hayes. A well-bred Havana Grey. So probably maybe not a massive betting heat, but I'd say you could probably earmark the winner of that one and follow them down the line, because it normally produces a nice enough filly, that contest. But we'll move on now from Tuesday and we'll go back to some of the other big action across the card. It's kind of going to get a little bit more difficult now without declarations for some of these events. But look, there's a couple of there's a graded race and a listed flat race on the Thursday as well. It's a Grade 3 Novice Chase, the Corrod Stakes as well on Thursday. Johnny, either of those contests, anything catch your eye?
Yeah, as you say, it's hard without declarations, Emma. But if Piper goes in the 210, the Novice Chase, I really like what he's done over fences so far. He's so much class, and he's gotten better with experience as well as he's learned how to jump. And I feel he'd take a bit of beating for all that he's taken on some kind of unexposed horses. The Corrib Stakes at this stage, I just think it's probably too difficult. So there are 24 entries. I don't know the draw, don't know anything else. Some interesting entries, finger pain for Dermot well among them. But yeah, I think we'll have to wait for decks there.
Yeah, for sure. Paddy, anything else for you to add there?
I'll probably second what Johnny said. I think Pied Piper's line, good bit of experience now. Just going through the field, there's a lot of them just after winning their beginners, although they were nice horse over hurdles. They're novice enough. He's last 3 runs, I think, combined of probably 70 lengths he's after winning, so he's coming there with a lot of confidence. And I suppose the interesting one, Gail Maher, Adrian Keatley, she won a hurdle race there last year, novice hurdle. She's in there and she's entered. I don't know if she's coming or not, but if she does come, that'll be an interesting one to keep a watch on, on course form again. And she's had plenty of runs in England over fences. So the two most experienced in the field, I think, would probably battle it out.
Yeah, interesting. The least experienced one in the field there, great attitude. Probably worth watching any market moves on this one. Landed a gamble when he won his maiden hurdle in Fairyhouse back in February when trained by Thomas Cleary. He's transferred to Cormac Farrell.
It's either a mad job. Tom Cleary did such a good job and they transferred him straight to Cormac Farrell.
I know it's been a bit unfair on the poor trainer, but he landed. He did his job that day. Anyway, he was back, I think, from 80s into I don't know, single figure prices anyway. I'm not sure what price he ended up on the day, but I'd say keep an eye on any market moves there for great attitude. If he shows up in Galway on Thursday, it's an interesting entry for him as well. But okay, we'll have a quick chat about Friday. There's a few other big feature handicaps to mention. I'm going to just be a quick mention now, since we don't have declarations. Obviously, it's very hard to judge, especially those big field handicaps on the flat. It's going to be nearly impossible. But Friday's feature is the Guinness handicap. That is on at 6:30 on Friday. A 1.5 handicap worth a big pot, 110,000. 43 entries for this one. Again, it'll just be a glancing mention if anyone saw anything here that caught the eye. I suppose for me, I suppose the first one that you'd be drawn to is Ark in the Morning. Off American 91. He's only had a handful of flat ones there for Joseph, including last time when he won a winner's race in Bellewstown. Obviously, he was landed a big kind of a long-term plot when he won the Fried Winter at the Cheltenham Festival. Maybe it just didn't kick on then over hurdles, but it'll be interesting to see can they pull off something similar with this fella on the flat. If he shows up there, he'd be definitely one of interest for me. Johnny, anything in there that maybe caught your eye?
Yeah, I think the amateur handicap on the Monday as we record this will have a fair bit of bearing on this race. But it is an interesting contest. I think it'll be interesting to see the horses that, I suppose, run well on over the 2 miles with the drop back and trip. And my selection, Weston, is actually probably going to run. I think just talking to connections, if he goes okay tonight. And we mentioned 2 Bossy for Us, likely to come into it as well. Planty is an interesting runner as well. Matt Shore is an interesting horse, William, but that I don't exactly know what his ideal trip is. I thought his run at the Curragh the last day was fairly eye-catching. And Fairbanks is a horse, well, I know they think so much of. Not sure he was seen to quite at his best the last day. It's very, very tricky. At this stage, I'd probably be looking at the likes of Cloud Seeker going well. He's second to Fleetfoot the last day, who might reoppose. That was a very solid effort. He's a good progressive horse. And Andy Slattery's horses have been in good nick. I mentioned him earlier with his horse in the potentially running in the Galway Hurdle. He'd probably be where I'm looking at now. But these races, I suppose, the draw is so significant. It's kind of hard to be too confident at this stage. But I'd keep an eye out for Weston as well, and keep an eye out for horses that are priced up later in the week that have already run, because you can get value.
100%. Yeah, kind of waiting to see what's prepared and how they're drawn. I'd say it could be key there. We won Saturday's feature race. It's Boyd Sports Handicap Hurdle. Again, no decks for this. 2-6 contest. 38 entries. We won't go into too much detail. Paddy, did anything catch your eye in the early entries, though, maybe that people keep an eye out on?
No, I know Buddy wanted in there at the top of them, and keeping the weights up, but he'd probably run earlier in the week, I suppose. HMS Seahorse, he's probably, is he a little bit disappointing? I don't know. Did they think he was going to be a little bit better? He was a full horse, and they gelded him. And he seemed to have come on from that. He's had plenty of runs and plenty of mileage, but I'm still waiting for him to go up them couple of pounds, up another gear. So I'll stick with him. He's a good horse, and that Nolans know what they're doing around Galway, as I know. And he's just kind of a horse that I've been always waiting for him to go up a gear, and you thought he was going to make a great horse, and just still waiting for him. I won't give up on him yet. So in a listed hurdle, he has to have a chance.
100%. Yeah, he promised a lot as a juvenile, didn't he? And big one here, 2 years ago now, I think, was it, in the QR handicap on the Owen O'Brien. So like he's got Galway form. He was fourth that day, behind Teed Up. Obviously handled the track that day. So yeah, has to have a bit of a shout in there. For Paul Nolan, who definitely knows the time of day. Last feature race we'll give a mention to. We don't have any other entries on the Saturday or Sunday yet as we record this. So on the Sunday, then the last feature race of the week. It'll be a long week if we get this far, and it's the Ahorna handicap over the 7 furlongs. This is a race that you can kind of always rely on. The old reliables. There's been plenty of repeat winners of this one. Current Option won it 3 years in a row. Dreamwalker won it twice. There's been loads who've gone back to back, and horses who kind of tend to run well in it can come back and run well again and again and again. Even if they're not winning it, they can come back and be placed. And there's definitely trainers to follow in this one. Aidan McGuinness is the very, very obvious one here. He likes to target horses at this one, and the Dooley Turbo colours will be ones you'll be watching out for across the whole week. And they've got a couple in here. Again, 39 entries. I suppose we've got last year's winner, Physique, the winner from the year before, Dum is in here as well. On the Sunday again. One who maybe caught my eye just at the very, very early stage, Love Biddy Boy for Ger O'Leary. I think I might have tipped him up when he maybe slightly disappointing in the Nasrullah handicap at Leopardstown a few weeks ago. That was stepping up and tripped 9 furlongs for the first time. This horse who's been rapidly improving this year. In fairness, he's climbing the ratings. He's gone from a mark of 87 up to 96 now at the minute. He's won from any trip from 6 furlongs up to a mile, trying 9 furlongs last time. Maybe just stretched him a small bit, but dropping back to 7 here. I know he's gone up plenty in the weight, but just looks like a horse. Like even he's run at the Cora there going back to June time, Guineas weekend. It just if you get a chance, maybe watch the race back. He was behind Steve Binnon that day and just didn't get the clearest runnings, and he needs a bit of luck, I suppose, with his running style. He comes from behind and mightn't be the easiest thing to do at Galway, but I think Love Billy Boy definitely has a little bit more to give, maybe off marker 96. This 7 furlong trip might be possibly his optimal, so he'll be one I'd be looking out for if he shows up on the Sunday there in that one. Johnny or Paddy, anything you saw in there? Johnny, maybe you first.
Aidan McGuinness there. Gordon Esco is definitely interesting. He looked like he stayed very well at the Cora the last day. If this trip's within his compass the way he won with the rain coming later in the week, I'd be very interested in him if he gets a nice draw.
Paddy, look, I won't put too much pressure on you to tip the winner of the Ahorna handicap a week out. It's a tough looking one, but before we finish up the show, look, we've gone through as much as we could, I suppose, at this stage. I'll ask you both for your probably best bet of the week at this stage. We've got decorations for the first couple of days as well, so I presume it'll come from one of those. Paddy, I'll go to you first. Who would be kind of your strongest fancy across the opening few days of Galway, I suppose?
My best bet for the week one to watch is Lenore Verte from Willys. I think we've seen a lot more of this, and I was very impressed with the last day. And just one to keep note on the flat. I don't know if I'm any good at tipping flat horses, but Feisty Lady later in the week for Gavin Cromwell. I've just by chance just seen a couple of her races and a running, and I think she's in great form coming in here.
Very good. And I know Verti's in the Tuesday at Playable by Ives on Galway Hurdle, and I think she could go through one, so a nice nap there. And from Paddy as well as a shout on the flat. Johnny, your best bet of the week in Galway?
My best bet of the week in Galway would probably be I think Weston tonight in the old GPT is my best bet of the week.
Very good. I'm going to go for Jazzy Mackey in the plate. I'll stick to the big race. And there's one more to give a bit of a mention to. On the Saturday, there's a Fillies bumper. And my brother has a filly running. Her name is Miss Blanco. She could be one to maybe outrun big odds, maybe each way if she gets nice ground on the day. possibly one to watch out for at a big price, a small stake. So that'll be my two bets across the week to give at Galway. But lads, thanks very much for all your contributions. I hope everyone watching enjoyed the show and have a great week of Galway. If you're going there, make sure to gamble responsibly. It's a very long week. Can be a tough one for punters, but definitely an enjoyable one for sure. Thanks very much to our sponsors, Boyle Sports, and I hope you can tune back in tomorrow for our normal Jump to It show featuring Ronan Groom. We'll have a chat about some of the major stories from the last week gone by, and Ronan will chat about some of the betting trends from day one at Galway as well. So thanks for watching and bye for now.